Since the actual charge in December, I was on the front page of the newspaper. That caused some issues. I got up one day and I had a big cross nailed to the front of my door, on my front door.
Tell us about the day that it all kind of came crashing down.
Absolute panic. So I guess in the back of my mind for about a year or so, I kept telling myself this day was going to come at some point, but I never thought it would. So that particular day, my girlfriend took our kids to school. I went and got us coffee. I at the time worked from home. She got home just before I did. I pulled in the driveway with the coffee, and there was a forensics unit van parked in front of our house. There was a police officer and two detectives hauling computers and cell phones out of my house. And as soon as I saw them, as soon as I saw what they were carrying out of the house, I knew. My heart sank, and I just was in absolute panic. They wouldn't let me talk to my girlfriend. Felt like my whole life ended right then.
Was she home when they showed up?
Yeah, well, actually, they were already in the house. When she got back from dropping off the kids, they had been in our house for about 10 minutes or so. They had already identified the location of the computers in the house. They had taken pictures. And when she got home, the door was open, so she walked through it to see who was there. And as soon as she walked in the living room, there's a detective with a search warrant, the police officer. Yeah, it was, to her, it had to have been just completely devastating as well.
Up until this point, she had no idea that you had this addiction or that you had been looking at any type of porn, correct?
Correct. No idea. She had no idea. It was a complete blind side to her.
And how long was it before you were able to talk to her?
Well, that day, the whole thing took about 3.5 hours or so. I wasn't arrested that day. She wouldn't talk to me for probably a good week. I felt like I needed to be honest with her about it and tell her what was going on. So I did. She really didn't come to terms with it until after Child Protective Services got involved. And they got involved for a completely unrelated issue. But when they got involved, they saw the pending case, so they decided to do a forensics interview with the children. And it was after that interview that they did with all the kids that she became a little bit more open and talking to me more about it. Her only two kids are both girls. One's 14 and the other one is now 9. So yeah, she was absolutely concerned. In fact, I believe she was scared to death. It was the interview that the Child Protective Services did that really, made her feel a little bit more comfortable, because they didn't find anything, and they didn't find any concerns, which they shouldn't and they won't.
Prior to the arrest, how long had they been investigating you before they showed up at your house that day?
For about 6 months. They had been watching my internet traffic. They had been downloading files from my computer. They had been profiling me. I was completely oblivious to it. I didn't even know.
Does your ex-wife know about this now?
Oh yeah. Yeah. She definitely knows about it. And she's tried to leverage it as a way to get custody back of the kids.
So you have full custody of the 5 children that are yours from that marriage with her, correct?
That is correct, yes.
How has this affected your relationship with the 5 boys?
Well, as far as the charges go, they don't know about it. I have yet to bring myself to tell them about it. I've found myself spending a lot more time with them. The constant fear of, at any day, I'm facing a mandatory minimum, so I'm gonna go to prison at some point. And so every day, every chance I have to spend with them, I try to, I hug them a little longer when we do hug, or I play with them a little longer when we do play. It's really made me look at life from a completely different point of view. It's made me reevaluate life.
So what did they actually charge you with?
So originally I was charged with 1 count of possession of child pornography. Since then, I've been charged with 2 additional counts. And those 2 additional counts stem from their investigation leading up to the day they served the search warrant. So at some point they were able to download 2 files from my computer, and now they've added that to my case.
And when you say download files, were these pictures? Were they videos? Was it one picture? Was it multiple pictures?
So the files they downloaded were videos, 1 video per file. It was at 2 different times. The first file was from like November of 2015, and the other one was from February of 2016. The file they found on my computer was a picture.
And do you still live in the same neighborhood that you lived in when the cops raided your house? Do your neighbors have any idea? Has this made any type of media attention?
Yes and yes. My next door neighbor, he just recently moved out, but right after this happened, he wouldn't let his kids play with my kids. Went from saying hi neighbor whenever we would see each other, just getting dirty looks. Since the actual charge in December, I was on the front page of the newspaper, and that caused some issues. I got up one day and I had a big cross nailed to the front of my door, on my front door.
Does the school that your children go to, are they aware of it?
As far as I know, they're not.
Have
They
you
make
at this point had to register at all as like as a sex offender? Are you not allowed to use like communication devices?
No. The terms of my bond is that I just don't view any pornography at all. There was no extra stipulations as far as staying away from schools, having to register, not use devices that can connect to the internet or anything like that, which seems to be pretty common bail conditions.
So you're looking at, you said a minimum mandatory, and explain to people how much time the minimum mandatory is, and explain to them what that means to have a minimum mandatory, and what's the max amount of time that you could be looking at for this crime.
So in my state, the minimum mandatory is 3 years per count. The max is 25 years per count. So in my current state, no matter how they feel about the situation, I have to go to prison for 3 years minimum.
Have you done anything to receive treatment? Is there treatment out there? Does it even exist? Is it like if you were to go search out treatment in your area, is there a way to even find, do people advertise for that type of a service?
No, it's almost non-existent. And I've tried to reach out to different agencies, and the closest I've found, I've been seeing a counselor and a therapist, but they can only go so far in their training. The closest I found is a psychiatrist in the next biggest city over that specializes in psychosexual exams, and he has a specialty in this kind of area, but you have to take the exam before he would allow you to take part in his program. And my attorney was actually the one that found him. And the whole point of the exam is to see where you are mentally with this kind of issue. You know, how much does it turn you on? Does it turn you on? How much of a risk to the community are you? Is there any underlying issues? One thing that the justice system fails to address is, are people like me previously abused? Were we child victims ourselves? Is there something mentally going on? Is there some kind of depression? Is there some kind of something else going on besides this crime that was committed? They don't look at it like that, nor does any help out there. You can go to alcohol treatment programs, you can find drug addiction programs, and there's plenty of them, but you can't find anything for this type of issue.
Dave, let me ask you, do you see this as an actual real addiction?
I see the pornography as a real addiction. I see the child porn as a boredom to the real addiction. The bigger problem is the porn in itself. You know, if I hadn't been looking at it on a regular basis, I don't think I would have ever taken the next step. I blame the porn, and I am addicted to it. And I've been looking for help. I want help. I want to get away from it. I've taken some personal steps that put barriers up since this has happened. I haven't replaced my computers that were taken. I only have access to the internet through my girlfriend's computer. I use her account, so anything that I do, she can come in behind me and look up. I try to have a level of accountability with her. So I've taken these steps to try to curb my addiction. But an addiction like this, there really isn't like a 12-step program that is readily available.
So do you still have urges as of like right now today to a look at porn, period? And do you feel if you were in an environment where you caught yourself looking at porn, do you feel that the urge would reappear to look at underage porn?
Yes, I still have an urge to look at regular porn. I think I fight with that daily. As far as underage porn, I don't know. I haven't allowed myself to be in that situation since the search warrant. I think I'm so emotionally burned by it. I mean, this is to me is the equivalent of a heroin addict ODing and coming back from it and realizing what they've been up to the last few years of their life. This is me hitting rock bottom. I don't think I could ever go back down that road.
So what are you prepared to do once you're released from prison? You know, everything we do in this day and age requires computer access, either laptops, PCs, phones. I mean, it's everywhere and anywhere. What steps are you going to try to take to prevent this from happening to you in the future?
Well, I don't know. Um, that in itself is a struggle because of the internet is used for almost anything anymore. You can't do anything. You can't pay bills. You can barely survive without internet. And then when you get out of prison for a crime like this, it'll be years before they allow you to have access to it. So that by itself will be a challenge. I want to help people. I absolutely want to help people in my situation, and I want to help people not find themselves in this situation. And I think that will keep me from being to relapsing to going back to it. Because in order to hold people accountable, I'm going to have to hold myself at a higher level of accountability. And that's the only way it would work. That's the only way I could get through to people is if I hold myself to a higher standard than what I have been. You're talking about RDAP, and that's the closest, unfortunately, that seems to be the closest thing I can think of that the government provides for any kind of addiction that this could help in. It seems like they have such a high standard in RDAP that you have to hold yourself to that really builds you up and prepares you to be released back into the regular world.
Are you fearful at all with A, your safety, and B, are you fearful for how people are going to treat you once you enter into the prison system if they find out about what you're in there for?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of my biggest fears about going in. How they don't take lightly to it, and to some level you can understand why. At the same time, there's this misconception that comes with it too. Once you've done this, you're now a sex offender, and a sex offender is kind of a catch-all title.
The facts are you're going to be in a situation where guys in prison, even if they did feel similar to the way that you felt, they know that the prison motto is we have to stick together and hate those type of crimes and hate those type of people. Fortunately for you, you'll be going to a low security prison more than likely that kind of protects people that are in your situation. So violence probably won't be the biggest concern, more than how you're treated, what people say behind your back when you're not looking, how you're going to, make kinships while you're in there with surviving with these people that you're going to be forced to live with for the next possibly 36 months or more of your life, depending on what happens. What have you been doing since the time of your arrest leading up until we are where we are right now? What have you found that works for you in order to help yourself prepare for where you're about to go?
I've spent a lot of time on the internet just researching things, and I've just come to the understanding that haters are going to hate, as long as it doesn't get physically violent, I guess. People are going to say what they say, and they're not in my shoes and I'm not in theirs. And as long as we can, stay out of each other's way, then we'll be fine. When I go in, I just want to do my time, come home. I'm just going to keep my nose to the grindstone. I'm going to stay out of problems. I'm going to try to get a job as soon as I get in there to stay busy and just do my time, come home.
More than likely there's going to be other sex offenders that are going to be watching this video along with, you know, everybody else, but specifically for other sex offenders that are watching this video, when you say that you found useful research to help you cope with this and prepare, what can you tell somebody else that may be in a situation not as severe as yours yet? Maybe somebody is finding this prior to getting in trouble. What research have you found that you feel could be useful for somebody else to start deterring them from looking at underage illegal porn?
So if you're finding this and you haven't been charged with a crime yet, stop what you're doing and go find some help. This is devastating. Just the simple charge of it is devastating. Look at your local laws and see what you're up against. It's illegal and it's severely punished. I found a couple of YouTube videos, and it took some digging to find, and I can share those links with you later. Some of them are pretty inspirational. They kind of give you a bigger picture of what's going on and how society looks at these kinds of crimes. If you're in the same shoes that I'm in currently, only thing I can say is stay strong, learn something from this, really take something away from this. It's kind of like life is shaking you, going, you need to change your direction and change it.